we're out of fries. Now, the comedian Steve Martin said, when you start off with an audience, and he said comedians drive him crazy about this, say something absurd. Don't say, hey, how's everybody doing? Because everybody then comes down. You have all this anticipation and energy. Take advantage of it. And that's a tip about storytelling. The thing is, storytelling is becoming a skill that a lot of people are saying you need to have. And this, I have to admit, this class is something I've been pushing for a long time. And then I finally got it. Although I had to go up against a lot of resistance to get it. Yeah, the English department thinks they know the best way. But the thing is, you're technologists and engineers, and your demands and requirements are much, much different than what an English major or a business major, somebody like that, needs. And so, welcome to Persuasion and Storytelling. Although fundamentally, this really is a storytelling class. So, why am I talking to you? Well, I have some pedigree, and that's that I went to MIT, I went to Ohio State. Yeah, people ask me, why'd you go to Ohio State? My only answer to you is there was a woman involved. Then I went to Michigan, and then I went to UCLA. Michigan is a grossly underrated university, and that's that the two universities that do the most in research are actually Johns Hopkins and the University of Michigan. Now, the dirty secret is, yeah, I've got a PhD and an MBA. However, my minor at MIT was creative writing and literature. I was a closet English major. I have a bunch of publications, so I know something about writing, and I've been published in all different kinds of journals. And not only that, but I've written 3 papers since I've been here at ASU. I've won 10 awards for writing and research and for presentations. So what it comes down to is I actually have skills in this area. I have a bunch of patents, which goes into creativity. You can find my thesis in textbooks. And the big thing is, before I came to ASU, I had a 30-year industrial career. And I started from the very bottom as a landscaper. And then I did a bunch of labor jobs. I've repoed cars. I dug graves. That was a hard job to get because people were dying to get that job. Anyway, I started from bench engineer, and I worked all my way up, all the way up to chief technology officer. And now I'm a lecturer. I've been in 30 years in industry, from startups all the way to Fortune 500 companies. And everywhere I've gone, I've been an innovator. I've worked at different places around the world, and I've worked in 8 different industries. So I have all this experience, and I've seen a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. A lot of you are going to become leaders. And what is leadership? It's about getting a group of people together and getting them to move and fulfill a common purpose. People think leadership is about a person. No, that's wrong. Leadership is an activity. It is not a person. But in order to get those people to move and do something, you need to be able to persuade them. And one of the most compelling techniques of persuasion is storytelling. And that's what this class will focus on. Gerald R. Ford, former president of the United States, said that your ability to communicate is one of the most important skills that you'll ever have in your life. And so today I'm just going to give you an intro to the class, talk about the base concepts, storytelling, presentation, and writing. That's what this class is going to revolve around. You orally be able to tell and construct a story, and also critique it, which means deconstruct it, and figure out if it works. Then learning how to communicate by presentation, how to make good slides, and then your storytelling is a different kind of storytelling. And then finally writing, which is putting together a narrative. They did something really interesting this semester. They decided to make the campus class and the online class run in parallel. I have to be honest, This is the first semester I'm teaching it. I don't know how well online will work because a lot of this class is about learning from each other, and that's a very difficult thing to do when you're online. So we'll see how it goes. But basically, I'm going to lecture one day, and then the second day we'll do stuff. Here's the syllabus. As you can see, it's extremely detailed. And the reason why it's detailed is because, well, I want this to become a general studies class so more people will take it. My big dream is that hundreds of engineers will take this class because this has been my secret weapon throughout my entire career. And that's that I can always out-communicate somebody else to the point of where you could say I use dirty pool. Like, for example, you have to think about your audience. When you have a bunch of managers, these people are not engineers and not trained to think like engineers. And so if you start talking technical, their eyes start to glaze over and they lose interest. I was losing the argument in an opportunity review. I was on the verge of losing. So I'm not proud to say this, but I played dirty. And what did I do? I said to the guy, I think you made a mistake. He said, I think your eigenfunctions are wrong. And the guy just had, total shit fit. And then he starts, going through and he starts explaining his calculations and everything. And then he just lost the room. And then when I came in, I told the story. Simple, easy to follow. I threw in jokes here and there. For those of you who've had me before, I'm the king of bad jokes. Did you know that when Yoda first saw himself in high definition, he said, HDMI? Anyway, you can read over the syllabus to see what it is we're going to do. And so when you look at Canvas in the shell, it's pretty much follows the same pattern. And that's that. What are we going to do this week? What do you have to read? And basically, there's no textbook about this kind of stuff. So it's just going to be articles. And then the lectures, for those of you who are online, the videos are going to be there. And then what is it we're going to do this week? The way your grades are broken down, there's something unique here called the prime assignments. Now, don't you find it shameful when you hear about, like, a kid is 15 years old and he can't read, and yet he's in the 10th grade? How the hell did this happen? And the reason why is people just kept passing him along. Well, guess what? I'm not going to pass you along. You have 3 assignments. 1 oral story, 1 presentation, and 1 written paper. Simple paper, just a couple of pages. And your grade on it is going to be 0 or 100. If I don't think it's up to my standards of passing, 0. Do it again. You can do it as many times as you want. You could take the 0 or keep working at it. And then if you pass, you get 100. And that's what the prime assignments are. There'll be mini quizzes just to make sure you're paying attention, know what's going on in the course. For class participation, for those of you online, it just comes down to, are you actually talking to other people, which I'm going to require you to do during the semester since it's long. Now, for those of you who are in the military or something or out of the country, this is why I ask you to fill out that poll so I can find out who is available and who isn't available. So the prime assignment, story, presentation, writing. Do it until you get it right. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about your careers because this is what storytelling actually fuels into. How do we prepare you to be innovators? And what it comes down to is, do you have the skills and credentials to do your job? Are you agile? Meaning, are you able to do a lot of different things? Are you able to move into new frontiers? And are you able to connect to employers and industrialists and also investors? It's more than just being able to do this like on an English teacher point of view. The thing about going to MIT is if you do everything MIT tells you to do, you're 85% of the way to a job because the requirements are just so high that even the most incompetent MIT students tend to be a lot better than a lot of people in other different places. Now, you still got to do your resume and stuff like that, and you still have to learn how to interview, but you're at 85%. The thing is, TEM, our degree right now, only takes you 55% of the way. And so this doesn't mean that you can't have a good education or a good career, but we put most of it on you to basically do the work. And what we're trying to do right now is ratchet that up to more like 75%. And so you're going to see changes in the major map and things like that. And so this is the beginning. This is what your career is. It's a stack. And at the bottom of the stack is you need a hard skill. And this is why you have a concentration in the major. Your hard skill validates what you learn in the classroom. So what is a hard skill? Like I can code, or I can do a website, or I can do your books or something. And you get this from internships. Above that are your job skills. And this is being good at leadership, you know some project management, you're a good teammate. And so this comes from your experience in your job, plus your education. And then at the top are your career skills. These are the people who know how to be innovators, who can solve problems nobody else can solve, who can create vision. And you're actually getting this from your education. This is why you come to school and don't take a Udemy class. All a Udemy class is going to do is going to give you a hard skill that's going to evaporate in 3 to 5 years. And then you're going to have to go take another class to learn a new skill, and you spend your entire life. Why is it that some engineers can sit around and have a career for like 30 years, even though all their technology and knowledge obsolesced within 5 years? This is your career, and it's a stack, meaning it builds on top of each other. If you don't have the layer underneath and the layer above, it doesn't matter. If you have hard skills, you're in the 50th percentile, because there's somebody else who has those skills too. If you're good at your job, you're in the 20th percentile. Problem is 1 out of 5 of you is going to get whacked. But if you're the career skill guy, you're in the top 1%. And when you're in the top 1%, somebody's always going to want you. If you look at your career, if you have hard skills because of technology, you're going to obsolesce within 5 to 10 years. If you have career skills, here's the problem. When you're 50, nobody's going to want you. And the reason why is people stop growing. And so what ends up happening is, like, you work for HP, and all your skills are good enough for HP. But there's going to come a point where you're going to if you don't grow, and if you don't provide innovative value, then guess what's going to happen to you? You're going to be overpaid for what they're paying you. And so they're going to find somebody younger who can do your job. And older people complain about that. But it is the right thing to do. For example, you could be the best janitor on the planet, but nobody's going to pay you $100,000. You could be a great guy, you're really helpful, you know where all the bodies are buried, but there just comes a point where we can't pay you that. And the saddest thing I've happened to these people who reach 50 is they get laid off, and they're making good money. They're making like, $180,000, $200,000 a year. And they go out into the market, and nobody wants to pay them that. And they said, well, I'll pay you 90. And all of a sudden, I can't work for 90. Well, then you find out nobody wants you. And the reason why is HP paid you all that money because you have institutional knowledge of their business. But if you want to go work for IBM, they don't value that knowledge. And so this is what we refer to as institutional skills. On the other hand, and this is what TEM prepares you, you're the innovator. And so your career pretty much never ends. I still get phone calls once in a while for people asking me, are you going to quit? Come back to industry? But no, I'm having too much fun. What our model is based on is what I call pragmatic education. And that's it. If you want a full and deep education, you still need to know the theory. You still need to know how things work. Simulation is good because you get practice in. But then nothing is like live fire. For example, you don't know anything about leadership until you're in a leadership position, when other people are depending on you and other people's welfare as well as your own welfare is on the line. And this is what I refer to as pragmatic education, that a lot of schools focus on theory and simulation. But what we're trying to do is push you more towards live fire. And this is why I tell so many stories. This is why Professor Chavez also tells a lot of stories. And that's that we want you to understand, okay, this is what you really have to go up against when you get out there. Wayne Green, who is one of the smartest people I have ever met. If Wayne had dedicated his life to this, I have no doubts that Wayne would have won a Nobel Prize. That's how smart he is. The man can process information unlike anybody I've ever seen. And Wayne said, and this is not me talking to him, but he actually gave a talk to my entrepreneurship class. And he said, to be successful today, you need 4 skills. And he said that you need to be a data-driven decision maker. We actually have a data decision-making class. In that class, you learn what the basic skills are in order to make data-driven decisions, and that includes things like game theory and optimization. We actually have a poker night in that class, because poker is one of the best ways to learn how to make data-driven decision makers, because you've got odds of the cards, there's a weight to your decisions, which are the wagers, and then there's a lot of uncertainty, because you don't know what's going to pop up, and that's what business and engineering and everything else is more like. It's not like chess and it's not like checkers. Those are finite games. It's more like poker. You need to go out and network. You need to form contacts with people. In TEM102Lec0, I talk about it. One thing that drives me crazy, some of you might have heard this. Well, in order to do customer discovery, you need to talk to 50 people. My first question is, where the hell did 50 people come up with? Where'd you come up with that number? And then this marketing professor at WP Carey said, well, if it was up to me, you would talk to 100 people. And I'm sitting there like, if you need to talk to 100 people to see whether or not your idea is valid, you don't know what you're doing. Customer discovery is a process. It's constantly going on, that you talk to people, you get information. The thing you should be doing in networking every time is when you get to the end of a conversation, are you saying, can you recommend somebody I should be talking to? People in general want to help you. If you're standing out on a parking lot, somebody comes up to you and says, excuse me, can you tell me where, Cambridge Auditorium is? Are you going to sit there and go, pound sand, it sucks to be you? No, people like to help people. And so in Professor Griffin's class, TEM300, she'll talk about networking. I talk about M400. And naturally, we have another piece here, storytelling. And the other part is, how do you measure progress going ahead and how you balance that against risk? And that's also a section I'm going to go over in data-driven decision making. But these are the big 4 of what you should know. The thing is, why are you not taking a class in CISA or somebody like that? And the reason why is this class is geared towards the communication challenges that you have as technologists and as business people. And so it's a different kind of communication. And I will talk about different situations and how do you analyze audiences and topics like that. So welcome aboard, and I think we're going to have fun.